Imagine a sunlit village green in the heart of 12th century England. The air hums with chatter and laughter as peasants, merchants, and minor gentry gather for a day of spectacle and sport. Children run between stalls hawking roasted meats, while elders sip ale beneath banners fluttering in the breeze. This is not a market fair, but a tournament, though not the grand joust of noble knights you've seen in movies. Known in Latin as iaculum or in Old French lance, this event married martial skill with playful competition. Unlike battlefield spearwork, where weighty lances bristled with metal tips for charging cavalry, sporting javelins were lighter, often weighted with lead near the haft to ensure a stable, true flight. A misjudged throw could veer into the crowd or splinter on impact, so precision was key. These folk sports often emerged spontaneously, a wager over who could out-grapple a rival, a foot race down the village lane, or an impromptu tug of war using a sturdy rope. Chroniclers like Gerald of Wales noted how, around 1180, Welsh peasants staged gouging matches on feast days, pitting robust farmhands against one another in bouts that combined holds, throws, and painful joint locks. Unlike modern grappling sports, medieval wrestling had few uniform rules. Biting, eye-gauging, and even kicking were sometimes tolerated unless a local lord or cleric intervened. Victors earned bragging rights and, occasionally, the right to choose the evening's music or to have a jug of ale on the loser's tab. Town authorities often turned a blind eye, recognizing that controlled competition diffused tensions better than idle grudges. Chief among these was chess, a game of intricate strategy that arrived in Europe from the Islamic world around the 10th century. Its earliest Latin name, Scacarium, evokes the Persian Shah, meaning king, for every move in chess revolved around the metaphorical struggle for thrones. Winners returned home celebrated, their feats recounted at hearthside. Losers, licking bruises, already plotted a rematch. In the corporeal contest of medieval life where hard labor wore down body and spirit, folk sports offered a liberating outlet and a sense of belonging that transcended tempers and tenures alike. No royal proclamation was needed. The call to gather spread by word of mouth, and soon enough, the entire hamlet would line the sides of the makeshift arena. Youths sprinted in long tunics, while older men, often asthmatic from hard labor, ran shorter spurts. Noble families prided themselves on their ability to outwit rivals on the checkered board. A queen-esque gambit signified not only intellectual acumen, but an understanding of courtly politics. Dice, carved from bone or metal, could seed suspicion. Gamblers accused of using loaded dice risked exile or worse. Yet, in many merchant cities, informal dice tables abounded, lubricated by strong wine and the thrill of chance. Bishops, represented by the angled church pieces, reminded players of the church's sway. Knights and rooks stood for martial and feudal might. Some enthusiasts painstakingly carved sets from ivory, bone, or polished wood, while monks' inscriptoria included miniature diagrams in illuminated manuscripts. In parts of Italy, aristocrats turned these foot races into more formal guerre de causa, complete with starting horns and judges. Prize giving could be as modest as a loaf of sweet bread or as grand as a silk sash embroidered by a local nun. Crowds cheered when a javelin pierced a distant target dead center. They gasped when a shaft curved unexpectedly, embedding itself in an upturned shield. Winners walked away not only with prizes, but with enhanced status dailies of their prowess, spreading from village to market town. Yet for all the seriousness, javelin throwing remained a shared celebration of skill, a vivid reminder that even in a rigidly stratified world, the flight of a spear could unite all ranks in collective awe. In rural France, children balanced on fence rails attempting to push each other off without losing footing, an echo of the later shinny games on ice. The patchwork of folk sports reflected local culture, agricultural cycles, and even seasonal superstitions. Some believed that those who lost in May Day wrestling matches were doomed to a bad harvest. Competitors would stand in a cleared arena, sometimes a simple meadow, and, with a running start or from a fixed line, hurl their wooden shafts toward wooden targets or stakes pounded into the turf. Instead, it is a festival of communal games, spear-throwing contests, rough and tumble folk sports, and even quiet benches where serious players hunch over boards of carved wood. In England, tournaments sometimes included the spear sound, where the goal was to hit a vertical staff capped with a leather pouch. The sharper the crack of the rupture, the more accurate and forceful the throw. In Spain, records describe a festival in Toledo circa 1250, where prizes ranged from silver coins to prized hunting falcons for the most skilled throwers. Nobles often hired professional javelinists Iroquois in southern France to demonstrate techniques and to coach their retainers, blurring the line between sport and military drill. From Cornwall to Catalonia, from Aachen to Aquitaine, medieval Europe buzzed with its own brand of competitive entertainment, an essential thread in the fabric of daily life. At the heart of these gatherings lies a testament to human joy and rivalry. In an era often portrayed as grim and unrelenting, sports and games provided a release valve for stress, a stage for proving personal prowess, and a means of forging social bonds. While chroniclers praised the valor of men-at-arms in pitched battles, they also left occasional references to pilums, iaccientas, and ludi populi that reveal how widespread and varied these activities were. Even the church, ever wary of pagan remnants, tolerated many such events as long as they fostered virtue, discipline, and fellowship rather than vice. In this five-part exploration, we will journey through the main arenas of medieval pastime, from the thunderous flight of javelins to the neighborly rivalries of archery, from impromptu wrestling matches to elaborate chess contests among the cloistered elite. Along the way, we will uncover the rules that governed each challenge, the prizes and reputations at stake, and the deeper social meaning behind every throw, shove, and strategic gambit. By the end, you'll see that medieval sport and play were more than mere diversion. They were integral expressions of identity, community, and aspiration in a world built on hierarchy, faith, and the rhythms of the seasons. On festival days and training fields alike, one of the most thrilling spectacles was the sporting javelin contest. Rules varied by region. In some areas of Germany, the Steinwurf preceded the spear event, gauging raw strength before testing accuracy. Beyond sheer spectacle, javelin contests honed reflexes and hand-eye coordination vital for warfare. Beyond the weapons-based events, medieval commoners delighted in simpler, more primal contests, wrestling, running races, and fantastical games whose rules shifted by locale and occasion. Wrestling, known variously as Lucta in Latin or Estangada in Old Occitan, was everywhere. Running races took place on roads, fields, or even in castle courtyards. Unique regional variants abounded. In the Scottish Highlands, boys played clachan, a mock combat game using bundled straw as shields. These grassroots contests stitched communities together. After church on Sunday, neighbors who might argue over property lines now clasped hands and tested strength in good humor. Amid the clangor of physical contests, a more cerebral pastime flourished within castle halls, monasteries, and wealthy merchant homes, the world of board games. By the 12th century, chess manuals circulated in Arabic and Latin, codifying moves and opening sequences. Alongside chess, backgammon known as tabula and various dice games entertained those seeking faster, luck-driven play. Dice, carved from bone or metal, could seed suspicion. Gamblers accused of using loaded dice risked exile or worse. Yet in many merchant cities, informal dice tables abounded, lubricated by strong wine and the thrill of chance. Win or lose, dice games revealed character under pressure. Those who controlled their bets maintained honor. Addicts who lost fortunes faced social ruin. Chess carried a deeper social meaning. Mixed status tables, where a minor knight might match wits with an abyssaloud rare regulated mingling across class lines. A defeated lord might summon a scholar-like cleric for a rematch, forging unexpected alliances. Meanwhile, in monastic cloisters, chess symbolized divine chessboard, monks likening God's plan to the unfolding game, each piece a soul navigating cosmic order. By the late Middle Ages, gaming halls in Paris and Florence hosted lucrative chess tournaments, with spectators wagering on outcomes. After sowing or harvest, fields freed from labor became arenas of play. Renaissance fencing schools evolved from spear and wrestling techniques. The codification of chess openings in the 16th century built directly on monastic treatises. Folk sports survived as rural traditions Wales's Sianapan echoes in modern rugby. Across Europe, country games and board competitions form a living thread, connecting us to those sunlit village greens of centuries past. Athletic contests blessed the crops, while board games inside kept winter nights alive. Even the church adapted. Saints' festivals featured benign games, sanctioned so long as they didn't spill blood. In monasteries, monks used chess to meditate on morality. In parish halls, the dice game gave way to moral dramas enacted by youths. Yet for most, board games remained quiet interludes between labor and prayer, moments when nobility, clergy, and commons alike faced each other on equal footing of intellect. Beneath every contest lay deeper currents of social cohesion, personal identity, and cultural expression. We partake in the same human impulse that drove medieval athletes and thinkers, the desire to test ourselves, to connect through shared challenge, and to find joy in structured play. By recalling how medieval people hurled javelins under open skies, grappled in muddy rings, and plotted on checkered squares, we honor their ingenuity and spirit. These games shaped communities as much as any edict or cathedral. They remind us that, even in the shadow of hardship, people have always turned to sport and play to celebrate life, to forge bonds, and to discover the enduring power of competition and camaraderie. By examining these pastimes, we glimpse how medieval people understood honor, skill, and community. In these games of kings and peasants, victory rested not on muscle or birthright, but on foresight, patience, and cunning, universal virtues that transcended the rigid hierarchies beyond the gaming table. Whether in the clash of wooden targets, the roar of the wrestling ring, or the hush of the chessboard, medieval sports and games were never mere distractions. Tournaments and village fairs alike functioned as social lubricants. Lords exhibited power by sponsoring grand events, distributing prizes, and dispensing justice in the same breath. Commoners displayed competent strength, dexterity, or strategic wit, earning respect from peers and superiors. A skilled javelin thrower might gain access to the lord's retinue. A renowned chess player could secure patronage for manuscripts. These interactions softened class divisions, albeit temporarily, reinforcing a shared sense of belonging under the banner of sport. The calendar of feast days, Easter, Michaelmas, St. John's Eve, aligned with major sporting gatherings. Over time, the legacy of these medieval pastimes shaped early modern recreation. Today, as we don gear for marathons, gather for esports, or sit in front of a chessboard app, we partake in the same human impulse that drove medieval athletes and thinkers, the desire to test ourselves, to connect through shared challenge, and to find joy in structured play. By recalling how medieval people hurled javelins under open skies, grappled in muddy rings, and plotted on checkered squares, we honor their ingenuity and spirit. These games shaped communities as much as any edict or cathedral. They remind us that, even in the shadow of hardship, people have always turned to sport and play to celebrate life, to forge bonds, and to discover the enduring power of competition and camaraderie.